Evan Matthews stood on the smooth purple sand, blinking at the twin suns above, sweat forming on his brow. He was the only human on the alien planet Zillara, strange world full of sharp mountains, glowing trees, and creatures that hummed instead of howled. But none of those things confused Evan more than the alien girl who had become his guide. Her name was Carol, and she had deep green skin, bright golden eyes, and hair like silver wires. She was clever, a bit rude sometimes, and always ready to laugh at him. "Come on, human," she smirked, pointing toward a stone chest in her family's temple. "You wanted to see something cool." "That's my ancestor's battle armor." Evan raised an eyebrow. "You're not serious, right?" "That looks ancient." Carl crossed her arms and gave a playful grin. "Oh, I'm serious. But it's not going to fit you. And even if it's just old metal now," she added with a dramatic tone. "It only responds to Zellar royal blood." Then she laughed. "So it's not dangerous for someone like you." Evan wasn't sure if she was joking or challenging him either way. She pushed open the heavy lid and revealed the armor. It was unlike anything Evan had seen before, silver and blue, with lines that glowed faintly like veins and symbols, written in a language he couldn't read. It looked heavy, old, and somehow alive. "Just try the chest plate," Carl said, tossing it toward him like it was nothing. Evan caught it with both hands, surprised by how light it felt. "Are you sure this is okay?" he asked. "Don't be a scaredy cat, Earth boy," she teased. "It hasn't moved in centuries." With a shrug and a nervous chuckle, Evan held the armor piece to his chest as soon as it touched him. A bright pulse of light flashed across the room. Carl's smile vanished, replaced by wide-eyed shock. The armor snapped into place, locking around Evan's body like it had a mind of its own. Straps formed by glowing energy wrapped around his back. Arms and sides, the entire temple began to hum with an ancient sound, low and deep, like a forgotten machine waking up. "Carol, what's happening?" Evan shouted. I don't know. That shouldn't be possible," she stammered, stepping back. Evan tried to pull the armor off, but it wouldn't budge. Then he heard a voice inside. His mind, not Carol's, not his own. A calm female voice whispered, "Bearer confirmed. Welcome, heir of balance." His vision blurred, and for a moment he wasn't in the temple anymore. He stood on a burning battlefield, surrounded by alien warriors with glowing weapons. Above him, giant machines fell from the sky, and a massive shadow loomed behind them all. And standing before him was a tall alien queen. Her face was hidden behind the same armor he now wore. She looked at him and said one word, "Run." Suddenly, Evan gasped and fell to one knee. The vision gone, Carl ran to his side, grabbing his arm. "Are you okay?" "What did you see?" I don't know, but it felt real," he whispered, still shaking. "The armor. It spoke to me." Carl helped him stand, but her hands were trembling. "This armor only responds to the royal bloodline. And that means either it's broken or I'm not just a human." Evan finished her sentence with a nervous laugh. But Carl wasn't laughing anymore. She was staring at the armor like it had just become a threat. Heavy footsteps echoed from outside the temple. Voices in Zilari language shouted something urgent. Carl looked toward the door, then back at Evan. "You have to hide now," she said quickly. "Why?" "Because the armor just awakened. A power that hasn't been seen in 1,000 years, she whispered. "And if the elders find you wearing it, they won't see you as a joke anymore." Evan's heart pounded as he stumbled behind one of the temple pillars, still glowing faintly in the armor. Carl stood in front, trying to calm herself, but it was too late. The elders had arrived, and they had already seen the light. One of them pointed at her with fear in his eyes, who wore the armor. "Carl," she paused, then lied. It was just a trick of the light," she said, voice trembling, but they didn't believe her. And from that moment on, the joke had ended, and something ancient had begun. The elders stood around Evan, their alien eyes filled with both fear and curiosity. Carol's heart raced as she tried to keep her face calm, but the atmosphere was thick with tension. Evan stood frozen in place, the ancient armor now a part of him, glowing faintly as if it were alive. The elders muttered among themselves in Zilari, their words quick and sharp. One elder, an older female with silver skin and red eyes, stepped forward. This is not possible, she said, her voice trembling. The armor can only recognize royal blood. It is ancient, from a time before even we were born. Evan looked at her, his voice barely a whisper. Then why did it accept me? Carl's face paled. She had seen the armor's power before, but never like this. She had thought it to be a relic, a symbol of her people's past, nothing more than a piece of history. But now, as she looked at Evan, she realized something that terrified her. The armor had chosen him. But why? We must take him to the council. The elder continued. This is a matter of great importance. The armor, ... It's been waiting for something or someone, and now it has found them. The others nodded in agreement, but Carol felt a knot tighten in her stomach. She had no idea what this meant for Evan, for her, or for their entire world. We have to get him out of here, Carl whispered urgently to Evan, grabbing his arm and pulling him toward the back of the temple. The elders were distracted, talking among themselves, but Carol knew they would not be distracted for long. Come on, follow me. Evan hesitated for a moment, but the urgency in Carol's voice made him move. The weight of the armor felt heavier now, as if it were not just a piece of metal, but an extension of his very being. He followed Carol down the stone corridors, through a small door, and into a hidden chamber. Here, it was silent. The only sound the hum of the armor that seemed to pulse with energy. What happens now? Evan asked, his voice filled with uncertainty. Carl turned to him, her golden eyes full of both worry and determination. I don't know, she admitted. But I think we need to understand what this armor is truly capable of. It's not just armor, it's something more. Evan stared at her, the weight of her words sinking in. More? Like what? She sighed, walking to the center of the room where a glowing console stood. The armor was created by the Zilari to protect us from an ancient enemy, a warlike species that could destroy entire planets with just their thoughts. The armor is meant to bond with only those who can wield its power. And now, ... it's bonded with you. Evan didn't understand all of this. He was just a human who had come to visit an alien world. How had this turned into something so big? Why him? Carol, this is crazy. I'm just a guy from Earth. How could I possibly be the one to wield this? He gestured to the armor. This isn't supposed to happen. Carol placed a hand on his shoulder, her expression softening. I don't know, but you're the only one who can use it now. There's no going back. Suddenly, the console in the room flickered to life, and a holographic image appeared in the air. It was an alien woman, regal and beautiful, wearing the same armor Evan now wore. Her eyes, glowing with ancient wisdom, stared at him through the projection. Bearer of the armor, you have awakened me. I am Rethera, the first protector. You are the one chosen to stop what we could not. The enemy has risen again, and only you can defeat it. The hologram flickered as Rethar spoke. Her voice was calm but urgent. You will see visions. They are memories of the past, of the battles we fought. You will feel the weight of the responsibility. But remember this, the armor only works when your heart is pure. It will amplify your strength, your courage, and your will. Evan's heart pounded. He stared at the image of Rethara, her figure fading in and out as if the very fabric of time itself was bending around him. "This is insane," he whispered. Carol moved closer, watching the projection in awe. That's Riathara. She was the original wearer. But why is it speaking to you now? The armor should have been dormant for centuries. Evan looked down at the armor, the weight of it pressing against his chest. The voice in his mind returned, a soft whisper that only he could hear. "You are the key. Find the enemy. Stop them before it's too late." "Did you hear that?" he asked, looking at Carol. She nodded, her expression grim. "I did. The armor is speaking directly to you. This isn't just a relic. It's a weapon alive, waiting for someone worthy to wield it." "But I don't even know how to fight," Evan protested, his voice shaky. "I'm not a warrior. I'm just a human." Carl looked at him, her eyes filled with both fear and admiration. "And that's exactly why the armor chose you," she said quietly. "Because you don't have the arrogance to think you can do this alone. You're willing to learn, to understand the consequences of what's happening." The hologram of Rithara flickered again, and this time it was joined by another figure, one Evan hadn't seen before. This alien was taller, his skin a deep shade of purple, his eyes black as night. The figure's voice was cold and menacing. "The human must be destroyed. The armor belongs to the Zelari and no one else." Evan's blood ran cold. Carol stepped forward, her body tense. "We need to leave now. They found us." Evan looked down at the armor. He wasn't just a visitor anymore. This armor had chosen him, and whatever was coming, he would have to face it whether he was ready or not. Evan's heart raced as he turned to Carl. The cold, threatening voice still echoed in his mind. The hologram had vanished, but the feeling of dread remained. Something terrible was coming for them. "We can't stay here," Carl said, her voice urgent. Her golden eyes flickered with a mix of fear and resolve. "We need to move now." Evan didn't need to be told twice. He glanced at the glowing armor on his chest, feeling its weight pressing down on him. The armor was more than just metal. It felt like a part of him now. Every movement seemed to pull at his thoughts, each pulse of light reminding him that he was no longer the same person who had stepped foot on this world. Carl grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the rear exit of the temple, and the corridors were narrow, and Evan's mind raced as he tried to make sense of what was happening. The voice, the hologram of Rithar, and the shadowy figure that had spoken through the projection, it all felt too much as they ran through the dark hallways. Evan could hear distant footsteps. The Zelari elders, or worse, the mercenaries Carol had warned him about, were closing in. The temple had been their safe haven, but now it felt like a trap. "We need a plan," Evan said, trying to steady his breathing. "We can't outrun them forever." Carol glanced back at him, her expression serious. "I know, but we're not alone in this. The armor? It's not just for protection. It's a key. A key to something that has been lost for centuries." Evan furrowed his brow. "What are you talking about?" Carl's eyes darkened. The armor was made to protect the Zelari people from an ancient enemy. But it was also meant to awaken a new protector. Someone outside our world. Someone who could fight the darkness that is coming. The weight of her words hung in the air as they reached the temple's outer wall. Beyond it, the alien city stretched out in all its strange beauty. Right? Otherworldly structures made of shimmering materials, all surrounded by thick, alien forests. Evan's heart skipped a beat when he saw figures moving through the shadows. Mercenaries. They were here. And they were fast. "They're not giving up," Carl muttered, glancing around. She spotted an old transport ship hidden among the trees. "That ship. It's old, but it'll get us out of here. We have to move now." Without waiting for a reply, Carl sprinted toward the ship. Evan hesitated for a moment, his mind swirling. He was being hunted like a game, but he had no choice. The armor had chosen him for something. And it wasn't just to run. Evan ran after her, the armor shifting and humming with every step. As they neared the ship, Carl quickly unlocked the hatch and climbed inside. Evan followed, his mind still racing. What had he gotten himself into? The ship's engines roared to life, and they lifted off the ground. As the temple grew smaller below them, Evan stared out the window at the city he was leaving behind. It was beautiful, but there was something off about it, something that didn't sit right with him. Carl, why are they after us? Why the armor? Carl didn't answer right away. She was busy adjusting the ship's controls, but her face told him everything he needed to know. She was afraid. We don't have much time, she said finally. They know the armor is important, and they want it. The armor is part of a Legutia legacy that was meant to protect the Zelrai people from a force beyond our understanding. An enemy that can destroy entire planets with a single thought. We call them the Vornak. They've been sleeping for centuries, but the armor's awakening has triggered their return. Evan sat back in the seat, the weight of her words crashing over him, and the armor chose me to stop them. Carol nodded, her voice soft but firm. The armor recognizes potential. Evan, it doesn't choose just anyone. It chooses those who have the strength to bear its power and the wisdom to wield it. But you're not alone in this. We have allies hidden deep in the Zelari network. But if we can't find them, the Vornak will find us first. Evan's thoughts raced. How? Do we even begin to fight something like that? I'm not some hero. I'm just a guy who got stuck in the wrong place at the wrong time. Carl turned to him, her eyes fierce with determination. You are the one the armor chose, Evan. You don't have to be a hero. You just have to do what you're meant to do. Before Evan could respond, the ship shuddered. He turned to look out the window, and his stomach dropped. Dark shapes were following them in the sky, shapes that seemed to move with purpose, cutting through the atmosphere like predators on the hunt. They've found us, Carol said, her voice tight with fear. They don't give up. We have to go to Zatharov, the hidden city. It's our only chance. Evan's mind raced. Zathara. He had never heard of it. But it didn't matter. They were running out of time, and the Vornak were closing in. Hold on, Carol said, pushing the ship into a steep dive. The world outside blurred as they shot toward the dense alien forests below. The ship jerked as they entered the thick atmosphere. Evan clutched the seat, his heart pounding in his chest. He had no idea where they were going or what awaited them. But he knew one thing for sure. He was in a fight for his life now, and there was no turning back. The Vornak were coming. And they would stop at nothing to destroy him, Carol, and the armor. The ship shook violently as Carol pulled hard on the controls, steering them through a narrow gap in the atmosphere. Below them, the alien forest stretched out in every direction, maze of towering trees with bioluminescent leaves that pulsed with life. Evan's stomach twisted as the ship dipped and swerved. The ground below rushing toward them, he gripped the seat, feeling the heavy armor press against his chest. It was like it was alive, breathing with him, almost as if it had a will of its own. Carol, where are we going? He shouted over the loud roar of the engines. We're heading to Zathora, she replied, her voice tense as she kept her eyes on the controls. It's the last secret city of the Zelaria place, where the Vornak can't find us, or so we hope. Zathra. The name echoed in Evan's mind. He'd never heard of it before. From the way Carl spoke, though, it was a place of great importance, a sanctuary hidden deep within their world. A place of refuge. But Evan couldn't shake the feeling that it was more than that. The armor, the strange vision he had seen earlier, and the looming threat of the Vornak, all of it was connected. What are the Vornak exactly? Evan asked, trying to make sense of everything. You keep mentioning them, but I don't understand. Carl glanced at him, her expression grave. The Vornak are an ancient enemy of the Zelari. They are more than just soldiers there. Like weapons, living beings capable of destruction on a level you can't imagine. They can manipulate minds, bend energy, and warp reality itself. But the most terrifying part is that they can destroy entire civilizations just by thinking about it. Evan's eyes widened. You're telling me they're like gods? Carol's gaze hardened. No, they are far worse. They are chaos made flesh. They exist to consume, to break everything in their path, and they've been dormant for centuries. But with the awakening of the armor, their slumber is over. Evan looked down at the glowing chest plate he wore. The armor? The key, the source of his new fate. It suddenly felt heavier than before, as if the weight of the world itself was now on his shoulders. What does the armor have to do with them? He asked, his voice low. The armor was created to stop them, Carol explained. It was forged in a time long before the Zelari even knew what the Vornak could do. The first protector, Rithara, wore it. She was a warrior of unimaginable power, chosen to stand against the Vornak's advance, but even she could not stop them. The armor was locked away after her death, its true purpose hidden until now. And now it's back, Evan murmured, the weight of her words settling on him. Back because of me. Carol nodded. Yes, the armor has chosen you. But you're not just wearing it, Evan. It's reacting to your emotions, your decisions, your heart. That's why it chose you. Before Evan could ask more, the ship jolted again, throwing them both forward. He barely caught himself on the control panel. Carol cursed under her breath and quickly adjusted the ship's altitude. Carl, what's happening? She glanced out the front window, her eyes narrowing. We're not alone. They've found us. Suddenly, the ship shuddered again, and this time, Evan could feel the presence of something massive, something close. He turned just in time to see a dark shape in the sky. Fast, too fast. The ship groaned under the pressure of the wind as a missile whizzed past them, narrowly missing the tail. Evan's heart slammed against his ribcage. They're attacking us. Carl didn't hesitate. She slammed the ship into full throttle, sending them hurtling toward the ground. The trees below blurred as they descended rapidly. We need to get to Zathira. It's the only way to escape. Carl shouted over the roar of the engines. Hang on. The ship veered to the left, just in time to dodge another missile. Evan's stomach lurched as they plummeted through the thick alien forest. The trees seemed to come alive, their branches stretching toward them like claws. He had no idea how Carol was managing to avoid them, but she was. Her hands were a blur on the controls, and the ship seemed to twist and turn with her every movement. And then, just as quickly as it had started, everything stopped. The ship leveled off, the landscape below opening up like a massive valley. It was vast, green, and completely untouched, at least on the surface. There it is, Carol said, her voice softer now. Zathora. Evan looked down, his breath catching. The city was nothing like he had imagined. It wasn't a typical alien city made of sharp, angular buildings. Instead, it was a peaceful, serene place on ancient structure made of stone and crystal nestled. Between massive hills, it looked almost like a forgotten temple, its walls overgrown with lush vines. With streams of glowing blue water winding through the city's heart. Carl guided the ship down toward a clearing in the center of the city. As they touched down, the engines hummed to a stop. And Evan felt a strange calm wash over him. We're safe for now, Carl said, unstrapping herself from the seat and standing up. But this isn't the end, Evan. The Vornak will stop at nothing to get what they want. And now, they know where we are. Evan stood, the armor feeling even heavier as he followed Carol out of the ship. The moment his feet hit the ground, he felt something deep within the earth beneath him, vibrating in sync with the armor. It was as though the city itself was alive, waiting for something. Or someone. "This place is old," Carol whispered. "Older than even the armor. And it has secrets. I hope we find the answers here." Evan looked around, but the peaceful beauty of Zathura seemed like a distant dream. Deep down, he knew they weren't alone. The Vornok were coming, and time was running out. They would have to find the truth before it was too late. The city of Zathura seemed peaceful, almost too peaceful, as if it were hiding something deep beneath its glowing waters and ancient stone buildings. Evan stood at the edge of the crystal-clear river, gazing into the reflective surface. The armor on his chest felt like it was alive, pulsing with energy as if the city itself was calling to it. Carl stood beside him, her expression unreadable. "This place is old," she said quietly, her eyes scanning the horizon. "Older than even the armor. It's where the Zelari made their last stand against the Vornok." Evan turned to her. "I don't understand. You said the armor was created to stop them, but why didn't it work? Why was it hidden away?" Carol's face darkened. "The armor is only a part of the story. The real power lies in the Heartstone, a crystal deep beneath the city. It was used to seal the Vornok away, but once they were sealed, the Zelari had no use for it anymore. They thought the Vornok were gone for good, but they were wrong. And now," she trailed off, her voice heavy with dread. "Now, the Vornok are waking up, and they want the Heartstone. They'll stop at nothing to get it." Evan's heart raced. "So the armor isn't the only thing they're after? They want this Heartstone too." Carol nodded. "Yes, the Heartstone is the key. It's what keeps them locked away. Without it, the Vornok will be free to destroy everything." Evan's mind whirled as he processed the information. He wasn't a hero, he was just a guy who had stumbled into all of this, and now, somehow, he was part of a race against time to save an entire planet from an enemy that could wipe it out with a thought. The pressure was unbearable, and yet he couldn't walk away. As they walked deeper into the city, a strange sensation washed over him. It wasn't the weight of the armor this time, it was something else. A feeling of being watched. He turned quickly, but there was nothing behind them but the quiet hum of the city's glowing plants and the distant call of alien creatures in the hills. "I don't like this," Evan muttered, his voice tight with unease. Carl stopped and looked around, her senses on high alert. "I don't either. Stay close. The Vornok are cunning. They don't just hunt, they manipulate." Before Evan could ask what she meant, the ground beneath them shook. It was a deep, rumbling tremor that made the building sway and sent ripples through the river. The city's peaceful silence was shattered by the sound of heavy footsteps. "They've found us," Carol whispered, her eyes wide with fear. Evan clenched his fists, the armor humming in response to his emotions. He could feel its power surge as he stepped closer to Carl. "What do we do now?" "We fight," she said, her voice determined despite the fear in her eyes. "We have no choice. The Vornok won't stop until they get what they want. And they'll use anything to get it." The ground shook again, this time more violently. Evan could hear the sound of metal scraping against stone, like something massive was being dragged across the city's ancient streets. "We need to get to the Heartstone before they do," Carl said urgently. "It's the only way we can stop them." They sprinted through the winding streets of Zathura, their footsteps echoing in the silence. The city, once full of life and light, now felt like a tomb place waiting for the end to come. As they neared the central temple, the source of the Heartstone, the air grew colder. The sky darkened and a strange mist began to roll in from the hills, thick and oppressive. The temple loomed ahead, its tall spires reaching toward the heavens. A beacon of hope, maybe, now a beacon of death. Evan stopped at the temple's entrance, staring up at the massive doors. What happens if they get to the Heartstone? First, Carol's face hardened. They do, the Vornak will break free. The Heartstone is the only thing keeping them sealed away. If they touch it, if they claim it, the Vornak will destroy everything and everyone. Evan swallowed hard, his throat dry. We can't let that happen. No, Carl said softly. We can't. They pushed open the ancient doors. And as they stepped into the temple's darkened interior, Evan felt a chill run down his spine. The walls were covered in old Zelari runes, their meanings lost to time. The only sound was the echo of their footsteps and the distant thrum of energy beneath the temple's stone floors. We're close, Carl whispered, her voice barely audible in the heavy silence. She reached out, touching the wall, her fingers tracing the ancient symbols. The Heartstone is deep below us. We just need to get there before she froze. Evan followed her gaze to the far corner of the temple, where a dark figure stepped out from the shadows. It was tall, its skin a deep, shadowy purple, its eyes glowing a sickly yellow. Its face was twisted into a cruel smile, and it radiated an energy that sent a shiver of dread through Evan's bones. The Vornak had arrived. Carl stepped in front of Evan, her body tense with fear and defiance. You won't stop us, she spat, her voice filled with hate. The Heartstone is not yours to claim. The Vornak's lips curled into a sinister grin. You think you can stop us, little Zelari? It said, its voice smooth and cold. Oh. The Heartstone belongs to us. It always has. Evan felt the armor hum with power as his heart raced. He stepped forward, feeling the energy course through him. This was it. The Vornak were here, and there was no turning back. He had to be the one to stop them. I'm not afraid of you, Evan said. His voice steady despite the fear gnawing at his insides. The Vornak's grin widened. You should be. Evan's heart pounded as the Vornak stepped forward, its yellow eyes gleaming with malice. The creature was powerful, dark energy radiating from it like a storm cloud. It stood taller than any being Evan had seen before, its form intimidating, yet somehow graceful, like a shadow that moved with purpose. Step aside, Carl, Evan whispered, his voice barely audible over the thundering rush of adrenaline in his ears. The armor on his chest hummed, responding to the growing tension in the room. Carl shook her head, her voice sharp but filled with determination. No, we face this together, Evan. The Vornak tilted its head, almost as if amused by their bravery or their foolishness. You are both foolish, it said, its voice like ice scraping against stone. The Heartstone will be mine. And once it is, the power of your people, your armor, will be nothing against the destruction I bring. Evan gripped the hilt of the energy blade that had formed from the armor, its edge glowing with a soft blue light. It felt strange in his hand, like an extension of himself, and yet not. He was still just a human, standing against an enemy far beyond his understanding. But he wasn't alone anymore. He had the armor. He had Carl. And he had something that the Vornak had forgotten. Hope. I won't let you take it, Evan said, his voice more confident now. The Vornak's smile widened. You are not the one in control here, human. Suddenly, the floor beneath them began to tremble, sending waves of vibration through the temple. The walls glowed with an eerie, pulsating light as the ground split open, revealing a deep chasm that stretched into the unknown. Evan, we need to move. Carl shouted, but it was too late. The Vornak's hand shot out, and with a wave of its fingers, the very air around them twisted and crackled with dark energy. A force slammed into Evan's chest, sending him flying backward into the stone wall with a painful crash. He gasped for air. The wind knocked from his lungs. The armor flared, responding to the threat, but Evan felt weak. The armor could protect him, but only if he could master its power. And right now, he was overwhelmed. "Evan," Carol cried, rushing to his side before she could reach him. The Vornax surged forward, its eyes glowing with malignant power. Carol raised her hands, but the Vornak flicked its wrist, sending her crashing into the stone floor. "You cannot defeat me," the Vornak sneered, approaching them both with slow, deliberate steps. "You are nothing but insects to be crushed." Underfoot, Evan's breath came in ragged gasps, pain radiating through his chest. He had to get up. He had to fight. For Carl. For Cythera. For his world. But how? The armor hummed louder now, as if sensing his struggle. It pulsed with power, and suddenly, memories flooded Evan's mind, memories, not his own. Battles fought, enemies destroyed, power wielded by a being long gone. The armor had a purpose. It wasn't just protection, it was a weapon. A weapon. Meant to protect the universe from destruction. Evan's vision cleared. The armor had been waiting for him to understand it. He had to trust it. Trust that it could do more than shield him, it could fight for him. With a sudden surge of energy, Evan leaped to his feet, the armor glowing brightly around him. The Vornak paused, its eyes narrowing. "Do you think you can match my power?" The Vornak mocked. But Evan's hands were steady now, the energy blade crackling to life. The armor hummed with confidence, its strength flooding through him. "I don't think I know." With a roar, Evan swung the blade toward the Vornak. The dark energy that had been swirling around the creature seemed to recoil as the blade cut through the air, sharp and pure. The clash of energies was deafening. A burst of light that illuminated the entire chamber. The Vornak staggered back, surprised by the strength of Evan's blow. It was a small victory, but it was enough. For the first time since this nightmare had begun, Evan felt in control. "You're stronger than I thought, human," the Vornak snarled, regaining its balance. "But you're still nothing compared to the Vornak." Evan didn't respond. He was focused on the energy that now flowed freely through him. The armor, once a strange and alien thing, was now a part of him. He could feel it guiding his movements, helping him block the Vornak's strikes and countering with precision. But then, the ground trembled again, more violently this time. The temple walls began to crack, and a low rumbling sound filled the air. "It's starting," Carl whispered, crawling toward him. "The Vornak are waking the Heartstone. If we don't stop them now, it's over." Evan's heart skipped a beat. He couldn't let that happen. He couldn't let the Vornak destroy everything. "We have to reach the Heartstone before they do," Evan said, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at him. "Carol, help me. We need to get to it." Carol nodded, her expression determined. "I'll cover you." Together, they moved toward the center of the temple where the Heartstone was said to be hidden. The Vornak, sensing their movements, lunged at them again, but Evan was ready. With a powerful swing of his energy blade, he struck the Vornak's chest, sending it crashing backward. As the Vornak slumped to the ground, the world around them seemed to shift. The walls of the temple began to collapse, and Evan knew they were running out of time. The Heartstone was their only hope. They had to get to it before the Vornak did. The temple was collapsing around them, the ground cracking, and the air filled with the deafening sound of crumbling stone. Evan could hear the Vornak's voice in the distance, taunting them, growing closer with each passing second. "We have to move," Carol shouted, grabbing Evan's arm and pulling him forward. "The Heartstone is just ahead, but we don't have much time." Evan's heart pounded in his chest, the armor pulsating with energy as they sprinted down the narrow passageways. The weight of the armor felt heavier now, Not from its physical mass, but from the responsibility it had placed on his shoulders. He was the key. He was the one who had to stop the Vornak. They reached the heart of the temple, where a massive stone door stood, covered in ancient Zalari symbols. The energy in the room was thick, almost suffocating, as if the Heartstone itself was alive, waiting for them. "Carol, help me," Evan said, his voice steady but strained. "We need to open this door." Carl moved beside him, her hands pressing against the ancient stone. "I don't know the exact method, but I think the armor might be the key," she said, her voice filled with uncertainty. "Try focusing on the energy, on what you felt when the armor first bonded with you." Evan took a deep breath, trying to clear his mind. He closed his eyes and focused on the armor, on the energy that flowed through him. It wasn't just a weapon, it was a connection, a link to something greater. He could feel the Heartstone, his pulse synchronized with his own. As his thoughts aligned with the armor's power, the stone door began to tremble. The symbols on its surface glowed faintly, and with a deep rumble, the door slowly began to open, revealing the chamber beyond. There, in the center of the room, stood the Heartstone. It was a massive crystal, glowing with an inner light that shifted between blue and green. The air around it seemed to hum with power, the very fabric of reality. Bending under its influence, "This is it," Carl whispered, awe in her voice. The Heartstone, Evan stepped forward, his mind racing. He could feel the Vornak drawing closer, their energy growing stronger. They wouldn't stop. Not until they had the Heartstone. Not until they had everything. But the armor was with him now. He wasn't alone. Just as he reached for the Heartstone, a dark shadow appeared at the entrance of the chamber. The Vornak. It stood tall, its body radiating dark energy. The creature's yellow eyes glowed with malevolent intent. Its mouth twisted into a cruel grin. "You really thought you could stop me, human?" the Vornak said, its voice a low growl that echoed through the chamber. "You are nothing. The Heartstone is mine, and with it, I will bring an end to your world." Evan felt the armor hum with fury, its power surging in response to the Vornak's words. The blade of energy formed in his hand again, glowing brighter than ever before. But this time, it wasn't just a weapon, it was a part of him, an extension of his will. "You're wrong," Evan said, his voice steady, despite the fear clawing at his chest. "This armor chose me, and I'm not giving up without warning." He charged at the Vornak, his energy blade cutting through the air with precision. The Vornak raised its hand, summoning a barrier of dark energy to block Evan's strike, but Evan was ready. With a twist of his wrist, he slashed downward, breaking through the Vornak's defense. The Vornak stumbled back, surprised by the force of the blow. But it recovered quickly, its eyes narrowing as it gathered more dark energy, preparing to strike. "You're nothing," the Vornak hissed. "This armor, this power, will be mine." But Evan stood his ground, feeling the armor's energy flowing through him, giving him strength. He wasn't just fighting for himself anymore. He was fighting for Carol, for Zathra, for the future of the Zalari people and for the universe itself. With a roar, he leaped at the Vornak again, his blade shining with an intensity that matched the fury in his heart. The two collided in a burst of energy, the impact shaking the very ground beneath them. But Evan was determined. With one final strike, he drove his blade through the Vornak's defenses. Striking at its core, the Vornak screeched in pain, its dark energy flickering. It staggered back, its power fading as the armor's energy overwhelmed it. The Vornak's eyes widened in shock. "No, no, I cannot fall to a mere human," screamed. But it was too late. With a final, desperate